Well, good afternoon and welcome. Again, my name is Dan Bigger, and I work for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Law Enforcement Division, and I'm a conservation officer. And today is my goal to tell you who we are and what we do, and by the time you leave here, give you kind of a really good idea that our role that we play for the citizens of the state of Michigan and the natural resources are vital to helping to protect the natural and cultural resources that belong to all of you. So how did I get here today? Well, I'm going to tell you that story real quick. About 4 months ago, I was approached and they said, hey, we have this opportunity for you to come and tell people what you do on a day-to-day basis. And I'm like, yes, I want to do that. This is good. I said, but I better check with my boss. Let me check with him. And I went to my boss. He said, you know, I think this is a great opportunity. You tell me what you need. I'll make it happen. So I'm all excited. And on the way home from work that day, I called my wife and I said, you're not going to believe this. I got asked to go on stage. I'm going to have 10 minutes to talk about my job to all these people and explain why what I do is important to the state of Michigan and the citizens. And I was so excited. And then I thought I dropped the call because there was nothing. But then I heard her voice. She said, so you volunteered to do this? And you could have said no. So I continued to talk and talk and talk. And by the time I got home, I walked in the door and she's like, so I just want to get this straight. You have 10 minutes to talk about your job, and for the last 45 minutes you talked about it for 45 minutes straight. So I don't know how you guys do things, but I usually have a pad of paper with me. Pull out my pad of paper, and I had to do the pros and the cons, right? We have to narrow this down. So right away on the cons list, I put 10 minutes. And then I started on the pros. I'm like, okay, and I'm writing them down, and about 3 or 4 pages later, I'm like, this is not going to work. I am going to run out of time really, really quick. So I put my pad of paper away, and I thought, I'll start out with a story. So the story is, it wasn't long ago, I was on patrol, and it wasn't too far from here on a lake, and I was watching this family. They were out on the fishing docks. And they had their young boy, it was a mom and dad, they had a young boy about 7. They had their daughter, I'm guessing about 3, maybe 4 years old, and they're fishing. I'm like, I'm going to go talk to them. I'm going to see how their day is going, because that's something I get to do. It's great. So I walked out there, and I introduced myself and told them who I was, and I watched them, and they're fishing, and all of a sudden, as I noticed the young boy not catching much, I said, you know, if you cast your line right over there, I'd notice there would catch a lot more fish over there, a lot bigger. So he did. Meanwhile, as I'm talking to the parents, I hear, I got a fish, I got a fish. And the little girl is, with all their might, pulling up on this fishing pole. And so mom and dad, of course, leave me, and they're running over there like, oh, let's help you out. You know, they're helping out their little girl. And you would not believe the size of the fish she pulled out of that water. If it was 4 inches, it was a good day. But in an angler story later, I'm sure that fish was 6 or 8 inches long. And I'm sure that the photograph that they allowed me to take of them with the big fish is probably still being circulated in their family dinners. So who are we? Who are conservation officers? Let me tell you who we are. Conservation officers are fully empowered law enforcement officers for the state of Michigan. And when I say that, we have the authority to enforce all state laws. We have statewide jurisdiction to do this, but our primary focus is on natural resources, laws, rules, regulations, and orders to protect your natural resources. So that's a whole lot of information in a pretty small amount of area or space. So let me just give you an insight on a day in the life of a conservation officer. Station 20, 8101. I'll be in service.
8101. We show you in service at 1044. Break.
Go ahead.
8101. We have an in-progress trespass complaint in Adrian, Lenawee County.
Clear, I'll be en route. Recreational trespass is when somebody who is uninvited comes onto somebody's property that is either posted, fenced, is farmlands or adjacent woodlots. And they're coming on there to do some sort of recreational activity. So a conservation officer oftentimes will respond to this, and they might have to dissolve a potentially volatile situation when they get there. They also need to make a quick observation of what's going on, right? They need to make a whole lot of notes and take a whole lot of in at a time when there's a lot of stuff going on. There's people that are upset. So when a conservation officer arrives, they have to take the totality of the circumstances and decide what they need to do at that time. Is it better to give an education that day? Is it better to issue a citation? Or is it better to seek prosecution? Those are the challenges that we might come into on a day-to-day basis. Station 20, 8101, I'll be clear of the trespass complaint.
Eight 101, Station 20 is clear at 1249. Break.
Go ahead.
8101, we have an in-progress complaint on Whitmore Lake, Washtenaw County, of subjects in a boat operating too close to an anchored vessel.
Clear 20, I'll be en route. So it's not uncommon for me to get called off from maybe a recreational trespass complaint to go out on a marine issue. Now, Michigan being the Great Lakes states and having one of the highest number of registered vessels, there lies the potential for something to go wrong, whether it be a violation such as you just heard, whether it be a crash, a drowning, or simple just questions from people that want to know, am I doing it right? But we have to make sure that we have the right equipment with us at all times to be able to respond to those calls. So when we respond to those calls, how do we know what we're doing when we get there? Well, we have to find the vessel, we go out and we deal with what we're doing. This is called reactive law enforcement. We're reacting to a complaint. Conservation officers also do proactive law enforcement, though, which is a great thing. We get to go out in the lakes when there's not something going wrong and just provide a service to you, the public. We're able to go out there and provide education, explain how and what the rules and the regulations are and how they're supposed to do things on the water. And we're just there for safety. So it wasn't too many years ago, I was on one of these proactive patrols in a lake in Branch County. And on that day, on 2 separate occasions, I was able to help 2 subjects that had fallen in the water and were drowning and pull them from the water. That was a good day for me. I wasn't reacting to anything. I was just there because that's what my job is. So in going from all these places, recreational trespass, to maybe another part of the county to do a lake or maybe to go check something else out, we oftentimes run into traffic issues. Now, these traffic issues could be somebody that's passing the bus with its red lights flashing. It could be somebody who's passing in a no passing zone, driving recklessly. It could even be a drunk driver that we run into. And we have the authority to, and we do make these traffic stops. It's not our main focus, but it keeps the public safe, right? And at those times, we again get to decide, is it better to educate? Is it better to issue a citation? Or is it better to seek prosecution in the case of a drunk driver? So let's continue on. The next thing that is very important to us as a department, to us as conservation officers, is hunter retention and recruitment. It's very, very important to us. So it's not going to be uncommon to see a conservation officer at a hunting show or at a fishing event. And one of my all-time favorites, hunter safety classes. I love to go to hunter safety classes because it's at the hunter safety classes that you get to interact with the future generation of hunters and trappers in the state of Michigan. They want to be there. They want to listen to you. And you can provide information that's very, very important and pertinent to them being successful. You can provide the information that allows them to be a successful hunter, to know the rules, the regulations, the laws that encompass that, and also teach safety and ethics. And it's not a captive audience because they want to be there. And it was at one of these hunter safety classes that a young man and his father came up to me afterwards and they said, "Hey, I'm going to go turkey hunting." The young man says, "It's my first time." I said, "Okay." So he wanted to tell me about all the clothes they had bought. And he even told me, he said, "I bought a turkey striker. If you don't know what that is." He was telling me all the different stuff that he came up with. And he's going to go turkey hunting. I thought, oh, that's awesome. So we talked. He told me where they lived and where he was going to go hunting. So I kind of put that in the back of my mind, and about a week or so later, I was out on patrol, and I got a call. And it was an individual whose dog had found a turkey egg. And the turkey egg was in the yard. It wasn't in a nest. He didn't want the dog to wreck it, break it, eat it, whatever the case might be. So I took it from him. I put it in my truck, and I went on my way. And I remembered where that young man who was going to go turkey hunting from the hunter safety class had lived. I thought, you know what? I'm going to drive by and see if he's home. So he was home, and he was out practicing sighting in his gun for turkey season. And I got out, and I showed him the turkey. I said, you know what? You're so interested in turkey hunting? This is where the turkeys come from, right here. So for those of you who are asking if it's which comes first, so let's fast forward a little bit. It wasn't too long after that, a couple, maybe 2-3 weeks, I was driving past that same area. And I noticed the dad was out in the yard that day and he was cutting his grass. And he saw me coming because you can't really miss our trucks. And he gets off his tractor and he's waving me down. And I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on? So I pulled over. I said, hey, how you doing? He's like, I'm doing great. He's like, do you have a minute? I said, of course. I have a minute. And everybody has a phone nowadays, right? And he did too. While he's cutting the grass, he pulls out his phone. He says, I just want to show you a picture. He holds up his phone. He shows me the picture. And he shows the picture of his son and his first turkey. What a great day. He told me about the bonding that they had while they had, before the hunt, when they were sighting in their gun, during the hunt, when they were in the blind together, after the hunt. And the smile says it all. And I had an impact on that. That's my job, really. They're paying me to do this. It's great. But conservation officers do more than that even. We're oftentimes called to find lost people, whether they're hunters, hikers, maybe children. Maybe an airplane's gone down in a remote location. Maybe it's an elderly person that wandered off from wherever they might have been. But who better to call than somebody who utilizes a GPS and a map on a day-to-day basis and is most comfortable in remote locations? We are comfortable working in these locations. It's not a problem. And you know what? We're trained to do it. And we do it because we care. We care about everybody. We care about the citizens. We care about their natural resources. So, from the Straits of Mackinac all the way down to Lake Lansing, from Lake Michigan over to Lake Huron, from Lake Superior down to Lake Erie, a conservation officer is on patrol. Now, at the end of the day, I, like many of you, I like to go home and enjoy time with my family. I like to eat dinner with my wife. I like to go see my son's baseball games. I like to spend time with my daughter and her husband. And as I take off my uniform and I secure my gear and put it away, and I finally take a breath, I know at any given time, and my wife can attest to that, my phone might go off. And I may be called out because there's something wrong. Somebody may need help. There's natural resources that may be being violated or taken advantage of that they need me to come out and take a look at it. And I will go. I will go because these are your resources. I care about them. I want them to be there for my family, my grandkids. I want them to be there because we care. So, at the end of the day, when this is all done, you can go home knowing this. And I wish you go home with this one thing. Conservation officers do care. We're there for you. We protect your resources. And you can go home knowing that the rivers, streams, lakes, fields, trails are all on the patrol plan of a conservation officer to protect the natural and cultural resources for current and future generations for the state of Michigan. Thank you.